All right, so let me get started with this vacuum sculpting. I really think it needs it to be able to sell this vision that I had for this inhalation. So I'm going to select this mesh, make sure my selection highlighting is on. Go to my shape editor. And this vacuum effect, I am going to stick under my anatomy fixes over here. So it's going to be a new target. All right, so I'm going to add a target here. And the great thing about this effect is that it's a effect that doesn't have to be mirrored in the way I was mirroring before. Well, it has to be mirrored for the sculpt, but it doesn't have to be split up. So I'm not going to split this up. It's going to trigger together as one. So with edit on, I'm going to grab my soft selection brush. So I'll grab a vertex first. And I really should hide everything just so I have some room to paint this thing well, to sculpt this thing well. So with my vertex selection on, I'm going to first start with a sink, a big sink in here, and work to create this cavity that comes with a vacuum. I'm adding to the selection, moving things. Now I'm going to grab my move brush and start moving around this mound that really was, make sure I have symmetry on, and create this mound that is a combination of muscles but pushed forward by the rib cage. It's more so on the outskirts. Yeah, very aggressive around here. Let me make this brush bigger so I get some large shapes. Yeah, let me go in this top area here. Make sure I get a good exaggerated effect. All right, and one thing I'm going to do is something I'm seeing in a lot of these vacuums is the emphasis of a line. Well, I would need that line anywhere, but I'm going to use a cutting tool here, which is the equivalent of the Damien standard brush in ZBrush. And I'm going to try to emphasize a central division here, which should be easier with symmetry on. That's a little too aggressive. So I am going to reduce the strength of the brush. Probably even lower than that. Yeah, and just try to push a central line here. And let me soften that a bit. Okay, that's a good central line. I do think that I'm still going to use the brush to do a certain outline, but I think I need significantly less intensity. So I'll go to 1. And then I'm going to chart a pathway like that. This is a little bit harder to do with my mouse. I'm attempting this with my mouse. I should be using my Wacom tablet, but I think I can attempt this with the mouse. I'm going to turn on steady stroke so the brush doesn't go too out of control. Yeah, and then chart this. There's like this hollowing that, yeah, like that. It actually turned out really well. And then goes like that. And I'm actually going to try to use this effect to push the rib cage a little bit more. Let me see if it's going to help. The rib cage effect. it's crazy because it would mean that the effect might be more aided significantly by the in-context blend shape than the actual sculpt deformer, but I don't think so. I think both of them will work well together. Yeah, and maybe I'll push these lines a little bit. I should be careful because this ribcage PSD will slide up just a little bit, so I should be careful how much I do detailing around it so it doesn't slide too much away from the detail I've just created. I'm going to go back to my move brush and push this further, push this bulging, this ribcage bulging just a little bit further for this vacuum, and actually sink the stomach in a little bit more. I probably could do this with the move brush. Yeah, the move brush seems to be the most powerful brush for building form so far. It has not disappointed at all. Yeah, I think this is what I'm looking for. This is the basic effect. But yeah, this turned out pretty good. One mistake I think I may have made is that I'm too preoccupied with making the impression of the ribcage show here, but what is actually showing here is the muscles on top of it. The muscles on top of it have more of an impression than the underlying ribcage. The ribcage is pushing everything in the back forward, but over here it would be the muscles, which would be mostly the obliques that are making an impression, but I think it's fine. It is a kind of muddied form that happens over there, but I will admit that the gestures do sort of travel like this, so it would have been worth editing. Maybe what I can do here is tone down the end result so I can correct the gesture a little bit, or just use a relax. Yeah, just to tone all this down, because I know right under the breast I might have had the gesture slightly wrong. So this is actually fixing the sculpt deformer heavily. But this is what I'm talking about. Like if you look at here, it's like mostly you're seeing because the gesture of the ribcage would actually be swooping down, like the gesture of the ribcage would be more so like this. Let me get a red pen. It would be coming like this. And it's kind of in there when it gets to the back. Right. But what is actually showing more so is the gesture of the obliques and the interdigitating serratus. All right. So it'd be a good idea to sculpt on top of it to just get a little bit of that gesture of the serratus instead. And I think that might be what I will do here. Definitely in the back here, I want to see ribcage. You want to see the ribcage lines, but here, I do want to soften this out a little bit. And then maybe focus on, let me grab and also smooth in this area. And maybe what I should do is go back to the cut up brush and just do a gesture or two to help sell the direction that the eye should be looking to see. That helps to sell the obliques on top of the ribcage impression, at least for the front here. Right, so yeah, like that. Just a few lines. All right, so that's this. I think if I don't like it, I'll come back and do some more edits, but right now I think I have a working result. At least the general visual is working well, and there's some interesting moundy detail on top, and I do have somewhat of a rib cage outlining. Which I could push a little. Yeah, I could push. By the end of the day, I do have to accept the fact that I don't have as many polygons as I would like. I'll accept what I have. Okay, let me not go too far. I do have to remember that the rib cage has to move under all this detail slightly. All right, so that is my stomach vacuum effect for an inhalation. And let me see what it looks like on top of the ribcage impression. Okay, that looks good. And there it is. Okay, so if I turn it on and off, that's the stomach vacuum, accentuating the ribcage impression or the inhalation effects. So let me call this TRGT stomach vacuum.